This is the latest effort, I think, obviously not to try to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president, because I think even the most diehard nut on the left, including Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and a few others, have accepted the fact that they are not going to be able to stop Trump being inaugurated. However, what they've tried to do, what the president's tried to do, and now what some members of Congress are trying to do, including Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and the president, is lay as many landmines as possible for Donald Trump to make his first month or 2 or 6 months or 12 months in office difficult. Listen to Charles Krauthammer, cut number 13, Liz, talking about as they go out the door, they're doing a whole lot more than the Clinton-Gore people did, pulling the W's off the keyboards in the White House.
Look, I don't want to impute a general conspiracy here, but it looks as if the Democrats, on their way out the door, are trying to leave behind as many landmines as they can to at least cast doubts on the legitimacy of the Trump victory.
Charles Krauthammer there with a very valid point. We're joined now by James Rosen from the Fox News Channel. James, good afternoon.
Hey, great to be back with you, Mark.
Well,
Thank
I appreciate you joining us. When this Comey investigation popped up yesterday, I thought, this is just one more example of them leaving an investigation in place in the last few days of the Obama administration that is going to produce, they're hoping, blooms for them months from now.
Well, the feeling amongst Trump supporters, conservatives, and even some impartial legal experts is that the decision to launch this internal probe inside the FBI and the somewhat limited scope of it point to political motivations rather than good governance as the impulse driving it. Certainly there are aspects of the handling of the Clinton investigation involving the Department of Justice that extend beyond the FBI and into the office of Attorney General Lynch that would seemingly be fit for inclusion in a probe like this, but which in fact are not. And so, for example, one of the things the Inspector General will not be including in the probe is the conduct of Attorney General Lynch, and particularly that infamous meeting with Bill Clinton, the former president, and perhaps the interactions between aides to Loretta Lynch and FBI Director Comey just before Comey decided to send that letter to lawmakers that proved so controversial in late October.
So, James, is he just going to be looking at potential ethics violations? Is that it?
My understanding is the Inspector General's probe will be focused mostly on FBI Director Comey's conduct.
Okay.
His decision to hold that July 5 statement wherein he impeached the credibility in the court of public opinion of Secretary Clinton for her handling of classified information, but declined to proceed with an actual indictment of her in federal court. Typically, such a statement would be handled with a simple one-sentence press release. We decline to move forward with a prosecution because we think there's insufficient evidence to obtain a conviction. Instead, Comey took it upon himself to speak for 13 minutes about how careless Secretary Clinton was with classified information before he declined to proceed with an indictment. Also under inspection, the Inspector General's lens here will be those pair of letters, that pair of letters that Comey released to lawmakers, reopening and then again closing the Clinton email investigation just days before the voters turned out at the polls. Secretary Clinton herself, after the election, told a group of Democratic donors that she believed that slowed her momentum and cost her the election.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they seem to, from the left, need to have that justification somehow of why she lost. I'm guessing, James, that this investigation doesn't delve any deeper into the FBI investigation of her emails, though. It's only limited to Comey's action or reaction, correct?
That's correct. The Inspector General has explicitly stated in announcing this probe that there will be no relitigation of the actual facts surrounding Mrs. Clinton's conduct and her maintenance of a private server, her handling of classified information, that Comey's decision to steer clear of an actual prosecution will not be revisited.
Well, I know that you're not specifically covering the story today, but it seems like there's been a flurry of activity this last few days on the part of the administration, up to and including Loretta Lynch today announcing this investigation into the city of Chicago Police Department. I mean, they're not taking a breath in their last 7 days in office.
It's very much an activist administration in its final hours, and we should point out that Donald Trump, the president-elect, has tweeted about this reopening or this opening of an inspector general's probe over at FBI, in essence saying, why are the Clinton people so upset with the FBI? He tweeted at 6:22 this morning, what are Hillary Clinton's people complaining about with respect to the FBI? Based on the information they had, she should never have been allowed to run. Guilty as hell. They were very nice to her. Caps, very. She lost because she campaigned in the wrong states. No enthusiasm. So the reaction to this development has fallen along fairly familiar partisan lines, Mark.
Well, one last question, James, and if this falls outside of your ability to comment, I'll understand. But yesterday, when the president announced that he was changing the wet foot, dry foot policy on Cuban refugees coming to the U.S. and whether or not they'd be returned, is that anything more than just a hindrance? Isn't that something that a new president could reverse almost immediately?
I should imagine so. If it's within the power of the outgoing president to enact something like this via executive fiat in his closing days in office, it stands to reason that it would be fairly easy for the next president at the beginning of his term to reverse it. It struck a lot of people as quizzical because this president has been so welcoming to immigrants from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and elsewhere, using executive action to shield some of them from deportation in instances where the Supreme Court has not always upheld that executive action. But here he is, in essence, saying if you're from Cuba and you should manage to get here, which was always a criterion by which you were allowed to stay here,
right, no
longer does that apply.
Wow. James Rosen from the Fox News Channel, always a pleasure.
Mark, you're kind to have me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Appreciate your input on that stuff. We can talk more about that when we come back because that was mystifying to me. We're also going to talk to Michael McShane from the Show Me Institute. Betsy DeVos. They're going to hammer her in these confirmation hearings because she's pro-school choice. The Show Me Institute has been looking at that issue and the kind of things that she supported in the past. It's all coming up today right here on The Mark Cox Show.